I am currently facing life in prison in a foreign country.
Facing life behind bars in a foreign country, all behind a man, is diabolical, crazy work. And this is the reason why I keep saying that men do not care about you, they only care about what you can do for them. This young lady's story is
Let's get this money. It's just money coming to me easily. Money coming in and needing me. Money coming in repeatedly. Money coming, it's just money coming. It's just money coming to me frequently. Money coming in to be with me. Money coming in secretly. Money coming, it's just money coming. Money coming to me immediately. Money coming in.
I am currently facing life in prison in a foreign country. And if you've been following my account over the past year, you know that I was framed for a drug crime in a foreign country by my ex-boyfriend. I've had dreams to move overseas for like probably 5+ years. For the last 5 years of my life, I quite literally, if you know me, if you're close to me, you know that I have always dreamt of living overseas. That has always been one thing that I've always said that I wanted to do, and I always said I want to do it for at least a year. I just want to go overseas. I want to try it out. I want to experience life outside of America. So this was a dream that I had set, and it was in my 5-year plan, and I hit that mark right at the end of my 5-year plan. So I quite literally had someone in my life at that time who was there to cause a complete detour and a complete distraction. I had someone there who wanted my life and would stop at nothing to make sure that I no longer had my life. The life that I've been working hard for most of my life. So yeah, we're really going to get into like the spiritual aspects, everything. Like there's just so many components of this story, and I can't just jump into like this is what happened overseas. No, we got to go into what really happened and how we even got to the point of someone being able to frame me for drug smuggling in a foreign country. My intuition has been screaming at me to start this freaking story time, and I have to stop ignoring it at this point. But before we get into like what's currently happening and what went on in court, what went on when I got to said foreign country, we need to go backwards, and we need to talk about everything that I missed in my relationship with a narcissist and a sociopath and someone who quite literally wanted to steal my life from me. At the end of the day, if I can help two people who are currently in a relationship with a narcissist or who are currently going through some of the situations that I've gone through, and when I tell you from physical abuse to sexual abuse to emotional abuse to verbal abuse, everything in the last 2 years, I've quite literally been through it all. And yeah, if I can help someone through the situation or out of the toxic situation that they are currently in, this stuff is real, man. And someone quite literally tried to take my life from me in the physical sense and in a literal sense, if that makes sense. But yeah, let's get started with this story time. But like I said, we're going backwards. So it's going to be a season 1 and a season 2. This season 1 is pretty much everything that I missed from start to finish that I can think of right now in this moment. Let's go. So if you watched my last video, you know by now that I am currently facing life in prison in a foreign country because I was framed. But as I said, there will be a season 1 and a season 2 to this story. So right now what we're going to do is kind of go backwards in the story so I can tell you all every freaking red flag, every sign, everything I missed in my relationship with a narcissist and a sociopath and probably a psychopath. I don't know if he's a sociopath or a psychopath, but definitely one of them. So I can tell y'all everything I missed. So let's get started from the beginning. So in the beginning, everything was great. So I thought. But little did I know I was being love bombed. And honestly, I feel like the type of person I am. I feel like when someone love bombs me, I'm just kind of like, I deserve that. Like, I deserve to be showered in the very beginning, you know? And that's probably not the best way to go about life. Now that I can look back at this situation, probably not the best way to go about life. So in the beginning, everything was great. So I thought, I had my job. He worked for my ex, my narcissistic ex, worked for the mayor. And we're going to get into why that's so crazy, but we're not there yet. When I met him, I actually met him out with his coworkers. And so, you know, I was like paying attention to how they were interacting. It seemed like the energy was good. The atmosphere was good. They weren't like giving him any like looks, like anything that I could notice to make me think like, he's not really liked in the office. You know what I mean? So I was like, okay, you know, a little rough around the edges, but he seemed cool. He works for the mayor. You know, in the beginning, he told me that he made $125,000 a year. I was like, okay. That turned out to be a lie. But I was just like, okay. And I'm thinking, you know, he works for the mayor he works for one of the largest mayors in the country. I'm thinking my background check is mostly done. Do I still do a small little background check? Yes, but I didn't go too much into detail as I usually would with background checks because I'm thinking this person works for the mayor. The background check is done, and the way he tells it, he said that he was working for the mayor for over a year, blah, blah. He was working for DC government for a few years prior, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay. Cool. Anyway, come to find out all of that was a lie. He had only been employed with the mayor's office for a few months and had never worked for DC government prior. So here we are to the very first red flag I missed. When I first met this man, he wanted to be around me 24/7. All the time. I mean, if I was on lunch break for work, he was pulling up to my job, like, come on, let's go out to lunch, like, blah, blah, blah. And from our very first interaction, he knew that my job at the time was pretty stressful for me, because I literally met him at happy hour while I was decompressing from my job. So it did come up the first time we met. Going back, I probably would not divulge information like that to a stranger. But he would be like, oh, come on, like, let's go out. Like, I'm gonna get you lunch. Like, come on, let's go eat. Like, blah, 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 blah. Like, after I would get off work, he'd be like, oh, I'm gonna come meet you somewhere. Let's go out to dinner. Like, you know, like, I mean, he quite literally wanted to take up all of my free time. And because of the place that I was in at that time, I didn't mind it. But any other time that would probably be, or that would have probably been a red flag for me. It just wasn't a red flag in that moment. So outside of everything else, I think him working at the mayor's office is what really kind of got him in with me. And then we would go to the mayor's events, or we would go to events around the city where the mayor's staff had to be present. Like one of the dates we went to a baseball game, and we were in the mayor's box seats at this baseball game. And I know that to be true because when the lady checked our tickets, they were like, oh, you're in the mayor's box. And we were like, yeah. And, you know, we went on to the mayor's box. So I knew that to be true. And in the beginning, he was introducing me to things in DC that I had not been introduced to as an adult. So I was just really kind of out enjoying life, having a good time, and wasn't really thinking too much of it. So yeah, the first major red flag that I missed was him wanting to be pretty much in my skin every second. And the crazy thing about this, the crazy thing about that and allowing that to happen is that I had literally just cut off a friend right before I met him, probably like within the same month. Like, I cut her off and then met him. I cut off a friend right before I met him because I had noticed that she had wanted to be around me too much. There were other things that went into play, just kind of like her wanting to be in my skin, watching me so closely, always wanting to know what I'm doing, always wanting to know where I'm at, always wanting to like know what, like, how do I do this? How do I get this job? How do I do my business? How do I da 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 da? So I literally just cut off a friend, and then for this person to come in and then to be like trying to be like literally in my skin every second, it was just, it takes me back when I look at it that way. And I don't really want to go into detail about my friend because the story is not about her, but they have a lot of parallels. Once we get into this story, they have a lot of parallels. For me to have gotten rid of her and then him to come right in, that's insane. So in the beginning, another one of the first major red flags that I missed, this is the very beginning of our relationship too. And I had went on vacation to California. I went on a girls trip, and we went for, I think, the weekend, but I had planned to stay for a few days after that. I don't remember how many days that we were all staying, but I had planned to stay for a few days after, just by myself. So the last day that I was there with my friends and when I was branching off to be by myself in LA, he calls me hysterically crying, and his brother had just passed away in Virginia, and he's like boo-hoo crying, like, I can't believe this happened. His brother was like shot or killed. I can't really remember, but he calls me like hysterically crying and like, oh my God, da, 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 and like doing all the theatrics on the phone. And so I made the decision to go home from California early. I battled with myself in that moment to not do that because this man is really not that freaking important. And I wish, like, looking back on it, that I never did do that, because I think that let him know right there. That was a test on his end, like a narcissistic test. And it was a narcissistic test that I failed miserably. Looking back at it, I don't think that there was ever anyone who passed away. He never talked about it afterwards. He may have talked about that for a week. And one time I actually brought it up. Like, he never went to the funeral. Like, for him to be that hysterical, did not go to the funeral. And the one time I brought it up, he looked at me like a deer in the headlights. Like, he did not know what I was talking about his brother passing away. And his brother in the sense of a really close friend that he grew up with. Never heard of that person again. He never brought him up like, oh man, I miss my brother. Remember I told you my brother passed away? Never brought that person up again. So I'm like 100% sure. I'll give it 99% sure that no one ever passed away. And it was a lie. Either way, it was a test for me to come home from my trip early because I could not be on vacation without him. And that was the first test to see how much he could control my life. All right, so back to part 2. The friends that were telling me nothing happened were men and women. I am not still in communication with the majority of those people who told me that nothing happened. They weren't necessarily like best friends or anything. They were more so acquaintances and good neighbors, like, you know, people that I partied with often because I was in a party building. But I can't say that they were like besties or anything like that. No. All right, so this leads me to a dentist appointment that the menace had. The menace said that he had a dentist appointment. He had to get a tooth pulled. I was like, oh, like, do you need me to pick you up? And I was like, you know, are they putting you under, putting you on like laughing gas or anything? Do you need me to pick you up? And he was like, no. They said that they don't need to put me under. They're just numbing the mouth. So I'll be good. I'll be able to, you know, see you afterwards. And I'm like, okay, cool. So he comes back from his dentist appointment, has gauze in his mouth, and is like, man, my tooth hurts so bad. Like, it was so bad. They didn't finish the extraction. They only took out like half the tooth, and they were like literally pulling on it. And I don't even think like it was ready to come out. They couldn't get the whole tooth out. And he's like, I need Percocets. And I'm like, they didn't give you pain medication? And he's like, nah, they didn't send it in yet. Like, I need something right now. Like, you know anybody who has something right now? And I'm like, no, like, I have Tylenol. Like, you want some Tylenol? So after this day, I noticed that he wasn't at work for a few days. And so I'm like, you haven't been going to work? And he's like, nah, since I had gotten back from the dentist appointment, they told me to stay home because they could just tell that I was just so out of it at work. Want to leave, I didn't want to go home, but like they just told me I was so out of it. And I was like, well, you told them you could work and you didn't want to go home? He's like, yeah. And I was like, well, they can't tell you that you have to leave. They can't make you leave for a medical condition if you're saying you can work and your doctor didn't say that you can't work. So that's illegal. They can't do that. And he's like, no, it's cool. Okay. So one day, this same week, we go to one of his best friend's house. It's his best friend, their family, and their dad. And we're there, we're cooling. They're like, oh, let's pop a bottle. Whoop. And I was like, oh, wait, like, we didn't bring anything. I was like, nah, the menace, we need to go to the store and we need to bring something. Like, I'm not coming here empty-handed. Like, they just fed me. They just popping a bottle now. Like, nah, like, I don't move like that. Like, go to the store, go get a bottle. We go to the store, get a bottle, come back, pull up in the driveway, and the menace gets a phone call. And the phone call is HR. And the mayor's office just fired the menace. While I'm in the car, I hear the entire phone call. It was extremely brutal. They were literally on the phone like, we don't have to tell you why we fired you. Just know we're firing you. Like, we're letting you go. But I don't have to tell you why. You can contact so-and-so and so-and-so. Go ahead and turn in your equipment on this day, and that's it. And I'm just like, and they were like, and the menace is asking, like, why? Like, what happened? Like, what did I do? And he's like, I don't have to tell you anything. And I'm like, oh. Ooh. So we're in the driveway of his friend's house. And we walk inside. My face is bloodshot. Like, I'm in my head, I'm like, what do I do right now? Like, I'm in a relationship with this guy. He just lost his job. And I really don't want to stay with him beyond losing his job. And I think that was written all over my face. And my intuition at this moment was like, leave him right there. Like, leave him at his friend's house. Go ahead, pull up out of that driveway and leave him at his friend's house. But inherently, I'm not a bad person. So I'm there, and the dad of his friend, like, pulls me to the side and is talking to me. And it's like, man, he's, like, a really good guy. Like, you know, don't give up on him. Like, I know, like, he lost his job. Like, it's not, you know, he'll get another job. Like, don't do that to him, man. Like, don't give up on him. Like, he's a good guy. Like, this is a 60, 70-something-year-old man, like, talking to my 20-something-year-old behind, telling me that this man is a good man. And don't give up on him. He's a good guy. Like, just take care of him. So I'm sitting at this friend's house, and the friend is starting to tell me stories about old stories and stuff like that. And he's like, yeah, man, he used to be so wild. I don't know what you're doing. Like, you're doing such a great job with him. He used to be so wild. This isn't the first time I heard this. So I'm like, what do you mean? Like, what does this mean? And he's like, well, you know, when his parents died, he got into drugs and was just doing really bad, and you know, he's clean now, he's doing good now, like, but he just, like, he spiraled. Both of his parents died in a short period of time. He spiraled out of control, like, but he's clean, like, he's been good for a while. Mind you, this man told me that his parents died in 2019, around the same time my dad died. He trauma bonded with me over that. He said his dad died on a holiday. My dad died on a holiday in 2019. I don't know if his dad really died on a holiday. I have no freaking idea. To fast forward to this point, his dad had just died months before he and I met, and I had no idea. So when this friend is trying to tell me that he was on drugs around the time his parents died, his friend is literally talking about like yesterday, making it seem like it was years ago. So now we start to get into the drugs. All right, so now he has a half a tooth gone. He now has Percocets that is supposed to be prescription for his teeth. And he now does not have a job. So let me just check something really quick. My intuition was telling me to leave after he lost the job. My moral compass is what made me stay. But I really strongly believe that it was my intuition, like, this is another red flag. Go. Like, go. Like, that's what was happening. And my moral compass overrode my intuition. Because I was like, that's messed up. Like, I can't do that to him. Like, you know, like, he was just working for the mayor. Like, he's been there for, like, over a year. Like, he can easily get another job. You know? But that was not the case. That was not the case, and we're going to get there. So, his teeth. He now has Percocet. All right, cool. I now hear a conversation with him on the phone with his sister. Apparently, he has this large inheritance. His sister has to sign off on him taking out money from his inheritance, and he has to sign off from his sister taking out money from the inheritance. So they both basically have to be in agreement for either one of them to take money out of the inheritance. That's what he said. I don't think that that's true. I think that his sister has control over his inheritance, and I think that she's fully capable of having control over her own, and I think that that's the way it was set up. I think it's one-sided. She has control over his. But neither here nor there, that's alleged. That's just my thoughts. So anyway, he's on a phone call with her about getting money out of the inheritance because he has to get the rest of this tooth extracted. I don't hear the other side of the phone call. I don't know if he was really on the phone. I don't know, but that's what's going on. He's supposed to be getting money for this tooth. Bet. All right. So now some time is going by, and I've started noticing little changes in his personality. And one day, he walks into my house mumbling, like just babbling off at the mouth. I don't know, like, I'm really not making out too many words that he's saying. And I'm kind of like, okay. So the next day, once he's talking normal again, I was like, what was that? What was that? And he's like, what? And I'm like, you were just mumbling words yesterday. Like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And he was like, oh, yeah, I was just really drunk. I was really drunk, like really drunk. Yeah, my bad. I was just really drunk. And in that moment, I was like, you were not drunk. That is not alcohol. I don't know what it is, but I don't want to ever see it again. If I see it again, we will not be together. And that was that. That was that. So after this conversation, he starts talking about how he would never try boat and how he would never try meth. And I'm like, okay, that's random. Like, all right. And he's like, yeah. Like, I would never try boat. I would never try meth because, like, I think I would end up being addicted to those things. So I would just never try them. Like, do you see these people out in DC and, like, what they're doing and blah, 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 and, like, how they are on the streets? I would never try boat and I would never try meth. So I'm like, okay, what's boat? What's that? And he goes into this whole spill of what boat is. And long story short, it's PCP, and it's a slang word for PCP in DC. And he goes into this long story about it, and I'm like, how do you know all this? And he's like, I mean, I work for the mayor. Like, I was working for the mayor. Like, I had to know this stuff. I've been working for a long time, and I had to know this. Like, I'm the person who's, like, out on the streets who's supposed to be, like, helping people and, just being a role model and things like that. Like, I have to know about these things because it's really prominent in DC. And I'm like, okay. Okay. So moving forward from there, I started noticing that my tolerance for liquor was getting really low. And my tolerance for liquor really isn't that low. Like, I can go shots for shots. I can go rounds for rounds. Like, my tolerance for liquor was not low. Cutwater was my thing back then. If you live in DC, like, or just in the States, like some places, if you know. Cutwater was my thing back then. And he, like, was always bringing gifts. Every time I saw him, he always had a gift, always had something. And a lot of times it was, like, a new thing of Cutwater. And I couldn't figure it out. Like, I was just like, okay, maybe I need to cut back on Cutwater. But it was, like, anything or anytime I was drinking with him, my tolerance was so low. My migraines started increasing. Like, I've always been prone to migraines. My migraine started increasing, and it just started taking me, like, way longer than usual to get over alcohol. And my brain started getting, like, really foggy, and it just started getting really weird, like, brain-wise. It just started getting really weird, really foggy, and, like, really jumbled. And I was just kind of like, what is going on? What this is not, no. Like, even, like, I had stopped drinking liquor and was just drinking wine. Even, like, sometimes I would just be, like, chilling out, drinking wine. Like, it would happen. And the culprit is that I was always around him. So, fast forward to knowing what I know now, I was being drugged. My alcohol was being drugged when I was with this person. Multiple times. Because I think that this problem happened, or he started doing this because I was very adamant about no drugs in my home. And whatever that was weird, and it's not going to happen again, or I will not see you again. And so he started working overtime and underhandedly trying to get me addicted to drugs. All right, part 5. This is my last part for the night, and after this, I'll probably get on live. We'll see. It's 2:50 a.m. So, anyway, the tooth. I think that tooth is still in his mouth. If there is a missing tooth, I think it happened long before my situation with him. I think that him complaining about a tooth and missing a tooth and all of that, I think that was just a ploy for it to be acceptable for him to have painkillers around me. Because I have quite literally already been very adamant about no drugs, Like, your friend already told me you had a bad spell. Okay, I accepted that. We moved on from that. There's no such thing as drugs around me. So I think that's what the tooth situation was. Like, it was just for him to be able to have Percocets around me. So with a narcissist, you always get the truth within a lie. Always get the truth within a lie. So with him being like, oh, I never take boat, or I'll never do meth, or whatever the case may be, something I would never even think about. That's because that's what he was doing. So when he was mumbling and babbling off at the mouth, that was boat. Mind you, I am telling this story in hindsight. Hindsight is 2020. Now I've done the research. Now I've talked to people who know him. And now I've kind of figured out, like, all this stuff that was happening. You know what I mean? So I'm telling this story in hindsight. This is in present moment, the stuff that I know now. I did not know this stuff when it was happening. Okay? So now I'm getting headaches consistently, migraines consistently. This person is now living in my house and I'm getting consistent migraines. I'm going back and forth to my doctor. My doctor's trying to figure out what's going on. We're doing brain scans, we're getting blood work, we're doing all this stuff trying to figure out why like I'm getting migraines the way that I'm getting them. He's switching in and out my medicines, like he's giving me sample medications, like try this, try that, try this. And we're going through this whole thing of me trying to fix these migraines. So in the midst of having all these migraines and stuff, the menace is like, you really need to try Percocets. Like, I promise you, like, it'll work. Like, just try Percocets. And he's begging me for some time to try these Percocets. And I'm like, no, my doctor got it. Like, my doctor will handle it. Don't, like, nah, like, we're figuring it out. I need to have, like, a medication that works for me, like, going into Korea anyway. So, like, we'll figure this out. You feel me? And the menace is begging me to try Percocets. So eventually, I finally try Percocets. And immediately, I'm like, why does this feel different? Because I have been prescribed Percocets in the past, multiple times. And so he's like, it's 30 milligrams. Like, you've probably only been prescribed 5 or 10 milligrams. Like, it's 30 milligrams. That's why, like, it feels different. Like, it's the same. It's just Percocets. It's just a higher dosage. I'm sure you can guess by now what those Percocets were. But I am done with this story time for right now. I'll see y'all tomorrow. I'm going to get on live for a little bit, maybe to clear up some questions that y'all may have or some gaps for like this point on to part 5. But we'll pick this up tomorrow for part 6. Y'all, I've tried to record part 6 like 5 freaking times and it keeps deleting and I'm so irritating. Like, somebody get this devil up off me. Whoever the lady is, get it off me, okay? Because something don't want this story out, but I'm gonna get it out. So back to part 5, what the Percocets were. The Percocets was fent. They were Fetty. So now we are in an attempted murder situation. He gave me a medication, made it out to be something else, and it was actually something laced with something extremely deadly. If you live in America, you know that there is a fent crisis and that a lot of people die from that same situation. And yeah, this person could have literally murdered me. I didn't know that the perks were Fetty until getting to Korea. So that will come up later, but yeah, had no idea. So in my lives, everyone's been asking me about the family. What is the family saying? Where's the family? The rest of my part 6 deleted once again. This is the 3rd time making this specific video. So where's the family? The only blood family member that I know of his is his sister. He is not in contact with any of his other blood relatives. From what I know, from what he has told me, that's also a red flag. So when I first met his sister, I met his sister very early on in the relationship. Very, 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 very early on. It was a red flag to me that he was so eager to want me to meet his sister. He was very eager for me to meet her and very eager for her to come to my home. He was not living in my home at this time, but he wanted to have dinner with her at my home. And at the time that she was visiting DC, I was kind of like confused because I'm like, why isn't she just staying at your house? Like, why is she getting a hotel? Why isn't she just staying at your home? Like, what's up? What's going on, you know? And so, you know, she comes over, whatever. Anyway, that eagerness, I think, came from him. He was using me to look like a better person in front of his sister. Like, oh, see what I have access to, see the person I'm with. Like, I was pretty much used to make the narcissist look better to the outside world. That was my role. So yeah, met her that time. It wasn't a weird interaction, but it was weird for me to have met her that early on. So fast forward to Christmas time. We were supposed to go to his sister's house for Christmas, who lives in another state. And he's like, yeah, we'll just stay with her or whatever, you know, like in the beginning, he's like, yeah, they'll take care of everything or whatever. And I'm like, okay, whatever. So closer to Christmas, he ends up telling me, yeah, my sister does not want us staying at her house. We'll need to get a hotel. And also they want us to go in half on the expenses for Christmas, like the food and everything else, which isn't abnormal or anything. But by this time, by Christmas time, he had already lost his job at the mayor's office. So I'm like, who's paying for this? Like, you expect me to pay for flights, hotel, and food at your sister's house? Absolutely not. Like, it's not happening. And so I was like, you can go to Christmas, but I'm not going over there for Christmas. Also, like, I'm like, at this point, I'm kind of like, is it me? Like, why doesn't you're her brother. Why doesn't she want you to stay at her house? Like, what's going on? And he's kind of making it seem like it's a me thing. So I'm like, well, I'm not going over there. Like, I'm not going there. So fast forward, we didn't go to Christmas. Fast forward to the time that we actually do go to her house. Now, this is where there are a lot of Easter eggs and a lot of very glaring red flags. As if the other red flags were not already glaring, these are like staring me dead in my face. We're at his sister's house. One day we take his sister's car to go to the grocery store. I'm the type of person, if I stay at your house, I'm going to contribute something. I'm going to go get something. Groceries, liquor, whatever the case may be, I'm going to get something to put in your house. I don't like to just stay at people's houses and not put something in there, you know? And so we take his sister's car to go to the grocery store. We get back later on. We use the same car to go to dinner. So it's me, him, his sister, and his sister's fiance. And we're all piling in her car, her two-door car, to go to dinner. If you know, two-door cars, the front seat, you have to lift the lever, slide the seat up, and then once everyone gets in the back, you slide the seat back into place, right? So she and we get in the back, and the seat is no longer locking back into place, the front seat. He's the one that was handling the front seat. So he and his sister get in an argument because she's kind of like in sister mode, like, you're always messing up something. In the midst of their argument, he's like, well, T is me. T was in this front seat earlier, and it's probably her who broke the seat. The seat was fine before we just got in the car. Like, how was it? Like, I'm sorry, how did I just get in the middle of this, you know? And so I'm just like, what? Like, how did I get in this? How did I get in this? So he's going on to say, we'll pay for it. He doesn't have a job. Who's paying for it? Like, not I, you know? And so later, I'm like, what was that? And he goes on to say, I know it wasn't you. I know that you didn't break the seat, but I just didn't want her mad at me. And I knew she wouldn't have been mad at you. I knew she wouldn't argue with you, but she would argue with me. And I just didn't want her mad at me. And I'm utterly confused because I'm sorry. What? You just tried to blame something on me. Not only like am I here visiting your family because you wanted to come visit them, but now you're kind of trying to build a wedge between me and your family. And that is what narcissists do. They make the people closest to them not like the other, like they triangulate you and they make you not like the people around them. Like, it's the weirdest freaking thing. Okay, so number 2. One day I'm coming up into like our guest room, and I come in the room and he has thrown up on the guest bathroom floor. There are white bathroom rugs in the guest bathroom floor. He throws up on them. And I'm like, what happened? This is in the middle of the day. This is the next day. This is in the dead middle of the day. No one's hungover. No one drunk that much the night before. So I'm confused as to where the throw up even came from. But obviously we know now that it was probably drugs. So he's like, I'm like, just go, put the rugs in the washing machine. He's like, no. I can't do that. what do you mean you can't put the drugs in the washing machine? I don't know. Me and my brother are, maybe we're a different breed. I'm like, because I can use whatever I need to use in my brother's house and we're fine. Hell, me and my brother walk out of each other's houses with each other's stuff. Like, you know, like, I don't ever have to ask to use the wash machine. So I'm like, just put your stuff, put the rugs in the wash machine. Just wash them. Like, it's not a big deal. He's like, no, I can't do that. I can't do that. Like, literally freaking out because he threw up on these rugs. And so he's like, I'm going to just tell her you did it. So I walk my behind downstairs, speed walk down the steps to go tell his sister that he threw up on her rugs. And her response was, oh, I love my brother, but he is so problematic. That should have been a red flag. I mean, all of it should have been a red flag. Should have been a red flag. Like, should have been a red flag. And I'm just like, why would you try to blame me? Like, again, trying to make me look bad in the eyes of his sister. Like, not that I was working overtime to look good, but like, you're working overtime to make me look bad, like to make it look like I'm messing up her things and messing up her house when you're the one breaking up stuff and throwing up on people's floors. Like, why couldn't you make it to the toilet? So then one day he and I are watching TV and talking to his sister's fiance. We're all hanging out. His sister has taken a nap and we're all hanging out. Me and his sister's fiance are like kind of like laughing, joking about certain things that probably happened throughout the day. I can't really remember the conversation or anything like that. So the menace gets up. He's upset, visibly upset. And he starts walking out of the room. So obviously at this point now, I have to leave with him because out of respect, I'm not going to be up here with this woman's fiance by myself, you know?